Today, as Sarah was saying, we are looking about stewarding what we have. Stewarding what we have. It is challenging, as Darren and Sarah have been saying, at the moment. There's all kinds of challenges we are facing. The rates of COVID are sort of still going up. We're all in lockdown, and it looks like the next few weeks might even be harder. But what we're trying to do at the moment is get a sort of perspective on these months that we're currently going into and also the year ahead. It is a challenging time. Somebody wrote to me this week from our church and said, just really struggling with lockdown. I can just feel overwhelmed, and the feeling like it will never end makes me feel anxious and claustrophobic at times, like I'm trapped and the walls are closing in. Sometimes it can feel hard to keep motivation to keep going. Everything can feel pointless and like a never-ending cycle of bad news and enjoyable parts of life being taken away. It can be really hard, and I think if you are feeling that, then others will also be feeling like that. But as a church community, we can support one another, help one another, encourage one another, and this phase will pass. It will pass. At one point in time, 2021, the first few months will be a distant memory, but at the moment we can help each other, encourage each other to get through. And we hope that this series of stepping into 2021 can help us give a sort of broader perspective and have some of the teachings of Jesus and the Bible related to our lives. So the passage I'd like to offer you today is Matthew 25. Matthew 25, verses 14 to 30. Slightly longer passage than normal. And I'm going to be reading it in the Message, just to give a slightly different tone. Some of you, I know, like the NIV. We've got the NIV, the New International Version, down here at the church. But today it's the Message version, and it'll be coming up on the screens. 14 to 18, and then coming on to 30. Jesus speaking. It's also like a man going off on an extended trip. He called his servants together and delegated responsibilities. To one, he gave £5,000, to another 2,000, to a third 1,000, depending on their abilities. And then he left. Right off, the first servant went to work and doubled his master's investment. The second did the same, but the man with a single 1,000 dug a hole and carefully buried his master's money. After a long absence, the master of those three servants came back and settled up with them. The one, given £5,000, showed him how he had doubled his investment. His master commended him. Good work. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. From now on, you will be my partner. The servant with 2,000 showed how he also had doubled his master's investment. His master commended him. Good work. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. From now on, be my partner. The servant given 1,000 said, Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless ways, that you demand the best and make no allowances for error. I was afraid I might disappoint you, so I found a good hiding place and secured your money. Here it is, safe and sound to the last penny. The master was furious. That's a terrible way to live. It's criminal to live cautiously like that. If you knew I was after the best, why did you do less than the least? The least you could have done would have been to invest the sum with bankers, where at least I would have got a little interest. Take the 1,000, give it to the one who risked the most, and get rid of this play it safe attitude. Get rid of this play it safe, who won't go out on a limb. Throw him out into utter darkness. What is Jesus saying here to his disciples, to those who were following him? What is Jesus saying to us today? This parable has become, this story has become known as the parable of the talents. The word talent In the English vocabulary, you think about your talents, it's derived from this word used here in this parable, this story of Jesus. The word talent in the text was just a unit of measure. It translated in the NIV, a bag of gold here. In the Message version, some cash given out, some money, some pounds. In those times, the word talent was just a unit of measure. But because of this parable, it's become to be used in our English language as talents. The talents is the things that we have been given by God to do his work in this world, to see the kingdom of God come. What are your talents? The sort of talents can encompass the whole of us, like our personality. What is our personality that we have been given? What is your personality like? What about your attributes, your abilities? What abilities have you been given? Things that other people haven't got that you have, that is unique to you. You've got special abilities given by God. What about your life experiences? There are things that you have got in your life that nobody else has ever experienced. They are unique to you and to your history. All the good things you've experienced, or the bad things you've experienced, they are unique to you, and you've got a specific set of life experiences. What about your motivation? You've got a passion inside, you've got a motivation. It might go up and might go down, but you've got things that you are interested in, other people are not interested in. Josh, our worship pastor, recently has got a part-time job doing part-time worship leading with us still, but also part-time commenting on football. He is absolutely passionate about that. Some people in our team have like, well, why are you come into church on Sunday a little bit sad sometimes? Like, oh, it's because Leeds lost. He's got this passion of football. Other people haven't got that. It's unique. Well, love of Leeds isn't unique to Josh, but the way that Josh is made is unique to him. You've got this particular passion and motivation in your life, which is different from other people. And lastly, you've got spiritual gifts, which are different to each of us. The Bible says that God gives spiritual gifts to each of us, and your spiritual gifts are different from everyone else's. Your personality, your abilities, your life experiences, your motivation, your spiritual gifts, PALMS. It's like a palm of our hand, that God's given us something in the palm of our hand, and he gives it to us in order to do the work of God here on earth. What is in the palm of your hand? The way to think about this parable, there's a number of things we're going to look at. The first thing is to notice this, that the talents that were given to those three people were all gifts from God. The master gives them specific amounts of money. It's his money he gives. It's not their money. He comes back and says to them, oh, how did you invest your money? He's saying, no, how did you invest my money? How did you invest the talents I gave you? So that means there's this incredible responsibility we have, because we have been given something in order to do some of God's work. And then it says in a text that the master comes back and says, how did you get on? And for the ones who invested that money, saw a return on it, saw it doubled, he says these amazing words, come and share. In the NIV it says, come and share in my happiness. If you think about the context of this, right at the end of Matthew, it's Matthew 25. Matthew 24, Jesus is talking about when he's going to come back, when he's going to return, when Jesus is going to come again. And and he's going to look and see what's happened and what's happened in the earth, and what have we done to help with that. That's what he's talking about. And in chapter 26, it's the Last Supper. Jesus is just about to leave them. So this is an instruction he's given to the disciples. He's basically saying, I'm going to go now. But you have this role on this earth to do my will and to see God's kingdom come. And I am giving you a whole load of things for which you can use. And I want you to use them. And when you use them well, you can share in my happiness. How do we get that joy of working with God? It's by using the talents that he's given us. Your personality, all your abilities, all your life experiences, all your motivation, all the spiritual gifts. How are we using them? I mean, do we even know what they are? What do we even know what our strengths are? And there's three. I'd like us to look at each of these three different characters that were given different amounts. I'd like to get on to the second one first of all. The second one in this version was given £2,000, given 2 bags of gold. Now, what's interesting about this is that what happens with us, we look at our personalities, our abilities, our life experiences, our motivation, our spiritual gifts, and then we compare them to somebody else's, and we think, they're not as good as others. We undervalue what we have. But God doesn't do that. And the reason we know that is because when the master comes back, for the one who was given £2,000, the middle amount, he says exactly the same as he does to the one who was given £5,000. He says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been given a small amount, and you could be trusted with a larger amount. Come and be my partner. God doesn't care the amount that is being given. He cares about what you do with what you've been given. He doesn't undervalue your gifts. Sometimes it's easy for us, isn't it, to see that somebody else is really good at something. But because we're good at something, we don't really appreciate that thing. Some of us, for instance, we might be really good at going and making connection with people, saying hello, introducing ourselves to them, finding out about them, helping them interact with somebody else. It's sort of like networking capability. And somebody said, oh no, that's just like easy. No, it's not easy. It's easy for you because that's an ability you have. Not everyone can do that in the same way that you can. Somebody else will be thinking, oh, you're actually good at listening to people and understanding their pain and being empathetic towards them. And you think, oh, that's just easy. Like everyone could do that. No. It's particular to you. You got that gift of empathy. Not everyone can be empathetic like you. You undervalue the things that you have been given, and you overvalue the things that other people have been given. But God doesn't do that. It says that he gives each person according to their strength, according to their ability. He's happy with different levels of gifts, different attributes, because we're all different and we're all diverse. Now, at the moment, you might be feeling that your life has been reduced somewhat because of the lockdown, because of the situation we're in, and you can't express those gifts, your personality, in the same way that you could before. There's been a reduction of your life. Does it mean that through the next few months we should just stop stewarding everything that we have and wait until 6 months' time when perhaps we're out of some of this mess? There are things that we can do during this period as well. One of those is being faithful. Just literally being faithful in a smaller remit, a smaller arena, a smaller area, perhaps a smaller aspect of our life than before. The same gifts, the same passion, but using them in a slightly changed, reduced way. A great example of that is our HTH runners. We have an HTH runners group, and we used to run on a Monday night along the seafront, and it'd be just a fantastic way of trying to get fit and help our mental health. And we can't do that now. David and Rachel Crane, who've been leading that, have set up a WhatsApp group, and now everyone is recording their walks or their runs. And at the moment, we're right in the middle of a challenge of doing 2,021 kilometers by the 21st of this month. If anyone wants to join in, just email hello@hhchurch.org and join that WhatsApp group. But it's a way that they have taken the thing that they were passionate about, and then they have now been faithful to that, but in a reduced capacity. So we can still be faithful to those things that God has given us during this time. Secondly, it might be we can fine-tune those talents during this period of reduced activity. We can fine-tune and practice and get better at those things that we are talented at in order for them to blossom more when we come out of the lockdown. Joseph in the Bible is a great example of that. He was in prison for a long time, but he still had this gift, the spiritual gift of interpreting dreams. And then one day, a baker came and also a cupbearer to the king, and they told their dreams to Joseph, and Joseph interpreted the dreams for them. During the time when he was in prison, he was able to fine-tune his talents while in prison, which then helped him when he came out of prison later on. So you can be faithful to the talents God has given you. You can fine-tune them. But also, during this period of difficulty and reduction, perhaps you can also find new talents. Dig deeper. Maybe there are things that you have wanted to try before and never have done so. And find and explore new talents which you've never used before. Somebody in our church, Faith, during the first lockdown, finding not working with her job anymore, and she set up this candle company, candle making company, Amygdala. Have I pronounced it right? Say it again. Amygdala. Amygdala candles. Now, the reason this is interesting is that she started up a whole new activity, and she's now produced some fantastic, beautiful, lovely, scented candles, which are really popular, and they're in the Old Town and various other places. But she found a new talent that she hadn't expressed before. She didn't just sit around, she started finding a new talent. There might be new talents that you have got that you can use during this time. So that's the second person, the one who's given 2,000. I hope the £2,000 person is encouraging to you, because the £2,000 one didn't have all the gifts that were given, but invested them and took some risks, and when the master returned, said, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Let's look at the first one, the one who's given £5,000. Now, this one is a real challenge to us, because this person had more than others. It might be more personality, more abilities, more of life. And this one is a challenge, because if you've been given more, it says in the Bible, more will be expected of you. given 5,000 and came back with a doubling of that. I mean, I feel that I think in terms of our church, like, we've got all these talents, all these spiritual gifts across our church, all these abilities, all this motivation, all these life experiences. And as a leader, I think, Lord, I want us to make these available to you so that when you come back, you look at our church of HTH and think, we have invested ourselves here in Hastings, and we've like seen a doubling of that investment that you've given us. It feels like a real responsibility. And even through this lockdown period, are we using all the talents that you've given us to the ability that we have? Because we don't want to bury them. So the 5,001 is a challenge. And then we come to the third person, the one who was given £1,000. And sometimes I might feel a bit sorry for this person because they just hid the investment. And then when the master returned, the master said, throw them out. Like, what have they done? The thing to note in here is that the third one says, I was afraid. I was afraid at what you might do. I was afraid. This is a way of Jesus saying, don't be afraid. Take risks. I was reading earlier this week, Joshua chapter 1. And Joshua chapter 1 is a part of the Bible when Moses has just died. And God says to Joshua, lead the people across the river Jordan. It's like this really big landmark. And on the other side, there was danger and risk, and everything was unknown. And so what is it that God says to Joshua at that point? He says, be strong and courageous. And then a few verses later, he says again, Joshua, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. And then a few verses later says again, be strong and courageous. Why did God keep saying that to Joshua? And the reason is because Joshua was afraid of failing, afraid of what would happen, didn't want to take any risks, and would prefer to have stayed on this side of the River Jordan in his comfort zone. He needed to be told, don't be afraid. We all feel afraid of failure. We all feel afraid of what people will say. We all feel afraid of making mistakes. But Jesus says to us, don't be afraid. Take some risks. I've given you something and I want you to use it. Just do something with those talents that I have given you. And we, as a church, can encourage each other to take those risks. Perhaps in our hubs or in people you're meeting with to pray, you can say to each other, I love this about your personality. I love this about your abilities. I love this about those experiences, hard experiences sometimes of life that you have got through and now you can use for other people. Turn your pain into your purpose. You can say to each other, I love the motivation that you have, and I love those spiritual gifts that I see in you. Step out. You can support each other in your hubs and prayer groups, and stepping out into those areas where you feel afraid, but you sense that God might be asking something of you. It said, how do you know if somebody needs encouraging? The answer is they're breathing. You can encourage so many people today. Think about who the people you are going to encourage today. It might be even taking a very, very small step in something. It doesn't have to be big and world-changing. But there are small things, small risks where we can ask God to use our talents for his kingdom to come here on earth as it is in heaven. And may 2021 be a year where we get through these next few months, where we are faithful, where we're fine-tuning, and we're finding new talents, so we can blossom as a church when we come out of this time, so that we're not pausing on 2021, but we're taking the commands of Jesus seriously, to use our talents, to take some risks, to trust him, and to see his kingdom come here on earth, in Hastings and beyond over this year. Amen.